Are you fretting because your podcast has just a few viewers and it feels like it's taking forever to grow that audience? I'm here to tell you, hang in there. Your show has an impact and it's going to hit you like a tidal wave. And the ripple effects are going to come fast, but you have to be patient with the process. How do you do that? Well, it takes a lot of support and it takes a leap of faith. So how'd you get that? I'm going to share all that in just a minute. Welcome to Waist Up Wardrobe. I'm Christine Vartanian, a civil engineer and attorney turned personal style expert and image consultant. As the founder of Jade for All Seasons, I am passionate about unveiling the inner confidence of my clients by developing their personal style. But is getting dressed up still important in our virtual world? Well, that's where my experience can help with what I call Waist Up Wardrobe. Waist Up Wardrobe is a podcast for all things you need to conduct an outstanding Zoom meeting. It's about how to dress for the camera, but it's not just about the clothes. It's about everything you need to know to show up on brand and professionally for the camera. Join me in the Waist Up Wardrobe studio to discuss how to navigate this virtual world and dominate from behind the desk. Hello, Virtual Nation. It's great to have you here at another episode of Waist Up Wardrobe with myself and my very awesome producer, Rick Moscoso, behind the scenes in the production room, making the whole show revolve and go round. And I'm very grateful for that. Well, episode 60 today of Waist Up Wardrobe, can you believe it, is the last of the series of the podcasting ABCs. We started with A, we went through B, C, D, and E, and F, and G, and today we will end this series with H. And H is for hanging in there. And why do I say that? Well, because sometimes when we start something like great, like a podcast or a show, we know it's really great and we know it's giving value. We can get a little discouraged if things like our audiences aren't growing, or if we are, if somebody says something that is that really worth your time or something like that, right? And I'm here to tell you that so much happens when you create a show or a podcast that you don't actually see. So many positive things are happening. Everything you do in business really has a ripple effect. And a podcast or a show or something consistently where you're streaming is no different. And the idea is you must become patient with the process, because like I was listening to my business coach, Allison Maslin, on stage once, and PK Odell is here with us, and she's congratulating us on episode 60. Thank you for being here, PK. And I actually PK can relate to this metaphor because, I was listening to Allison Maslin. PK, you've probably heard this analogy. And she was on stage and she gave this metaphor. She said, sometimes we feel like nothing's happening in our business or in systems that we're building. Sometimes it feels like the audience to grow your podcast is taking so long. But just like the bamboo tree, right? You plant the bamboo tree and nothing happens for a long, long time. It feels like forever. It just stays stagnant. And what you don't see is everything that's going on behind the scenes, the ripple effects. And that's that the bamboo tree is growing down into the soil and rooting itself and creating a foundation. And then all of a sudden, I think it's like 6 to 9 months later, you see the bamboo tree shoot up. And that is exactly when we create new systems or trying a new experiment or doing something, I think people give up too soon on what they're creating. They forget that they have a ripple effect in everything that they say and do and put out there. And even if they're impacting one person, that is huge. If one person gets inspired by what you do and you end up and they take action to elevate their lives, isn't it worth it? And I know it's really important to spend time as a business owner doing things that make sense and give you a good yield on your investment, but not everything is that tangible. And so today we're going to talk about specifically growing your audience for a show or a podcast and why it's okay to keep on persisting and staying consistent, doing it, even if you see 1 or 2 viewers on with you, even if you have like 5 viewers and one of them is your mom, like often happens on my shows. And my mom is like a raving fan, and I love that. And so are so many other people that are part of my, fan base, and that really join us here on a regular basis. And those people are so critical to your show, and they are so important, and they bring more attention to your show, and they also enjoy the value that you give. So I want to just start by this idea of hanging in there, right? It's not easy to create a show or to go live. It really takes a leap of faith. Like so many things in business, you just have to have faith in yourself, and you have to really be positive about how you're talking about yourself. If you have really amazing value to give the world, you can't really keep that to yourself. It wouldn't be right. So it is really, really important to take that leap of faith. And it can feel very uncertain. It can make us feel very insecure, not sure about ourselves. You're asking questions of yourself like, is the time investment worth it? Will people come? Will I know what to say? That's one of the biggest problems people face, is like, what do I say when I get out in front of the camera? Even people who are genius in their fields are always saying, well, what do I say when I interview them? So it's so interesting. We doubt ourselves, and we forget to take that leap of faith. But you have to, despite all those uncertainties, you have to do it anyway. Okay. And I'd love Rick to come on here and chime in, because he understands this evolution process and what it takes to grow an audience and what goes into creating a show like this, because he's done it with so many other entrepreneurs. And I'd love your take on what I just said, Rick.
Ditto.
You agree with everything I say.
I do. I'm on another live stream that we do probably every other week. It's kind of a unique show, so the live viewers aren't that high, and we talk about things, all things business, legal, business, attorney related, some personal asset protection, things like that. And then I put my marketing spin in there for that same audience as well. Here's the thing. We've done that show for now 6 years, right? Which is a long time. We've done it for 6 years. And we used to do it once every week. And I tell you, my friend can talk your ear off when it comes to business. He used to teach at Long Beach Community. And we just found that it was really for the rhythm of the audience that we had, we just scaled it back to 2 times a month, like every other week. And it was very, very, very rare in the 6 years that we've been doing this that we actually had live viewers on the show, right? And I kept telling my friend, it says, don't worry about it, because we're pushing this to Facebook and YouTube, and your audience is going to come from YouTube, and you're going to get a ton of watches on YouTube, because these concepts and these things are, the majority of things that you're talking about are evergreen topics. In accordance to asset protection and business law and those types of things. And just give it some time, because you'll reap the benefits later on. And I can't tell you how many clients that he's gotten maybe a year, maybe even 2 years later after an episode is aired, where we had nobody watching, and then all of a sudden a year later, 6 months to a year later, there's been thousands of views of that video. And he's getting calls, just about every day to retain his services, from videos that we did a year and 2 years ago. So, talk about hanging in there. I coached him to do that, and I thank God that he was patient enough to do that and understand it. I got him more fixated on just enjoy the process, enjoy being on air, enjoy, bantering with me, and enjoy the fact that although you're a retired professor now in law, this is your platform now to teach. So just continue to do that, because the other stuff, the instant gratification isn't going to be there if that's what you're looking for, but it will come later on. And sure enough, it has.
Yeah, I love that you say enjoy it. It's sort of a statement I tell myself, even when I'm doing something that's super uncomfortable. I feel like I have a privilege of being able to do it. And the idea is if I can just enjoy it and appreciate that I'm able and I have the opportunity to do it, then that alone really motivates me. So I really love that you said that. And the other thing is that you said is that, this idea of the time between which you actually launch a show or do take an action and then wait for the reaction, right? I call that like the ripple effect. It's almost those roots that are growing down deep under the soil that you can't see. You just have to have faith that they are growing under the soil, right? They are rooting themselves. And that's how sometimes you get these, this recognition. Like for us on our show, I got speaking engagements globally. I would have never imagined that would happen. And that was because of the show. Even on a show that maybe not that many people were watching, but one of those shows on a replay instigated me getting that, that speaking engagement. Mm-hmm. So you just don't know where it's going to come from next.
You don't. And all it takes is one viewer, right? That one mm-hmm. viewer, they may or may not be on with you live, but it just takes that one viewer that maybe spots your replay. And it's like, that's the person that I want to talk to this group, overseas or whatever it is. You just don't know. And you have to kind of play to them.
Exactly. And that's actually what happened with every speaking engagement I got as a result of the ripple effects of Waist Up Wardrobe. So I'm just reiterating here. You just don't know in what form it's going to come, and you don't know what is going to come. You just have to have faith that you're building something really important with a lot of value, and that the right people will land on it. And when it lands, it's going to have a lot of impact. Right. Yeah. I want to go next to overcoming that uncertainty, because a lot of people ask me, well, okay, you talk about having that leap of faith and overcoming the uncertainty, but like, do you have any tips on how to do that? And the reality is basically, like Rick knows very well, I built the plane as I was flying it, like many of us entrepreneurs and business owners, or even in your everyday life as a parent, you just kind of are experimenting, and it's basically a trial and error, right? But one of the things that was a foundation for the show to get some traction at the very beginning was a launch team, building a launch team. So before I even launched the show, I spoke with some people, including PK here, that I knew would be committed fans and would be supportive of my endeavor. And they were a group of about 15 to 20 entrepreneurs, some family members, some people that were like partners, power partners. And, and I asked them to really, engage with the show and go rate and review us on iTunes. And many of them really, really came through. And what that does is, even though this is just a show of support, and many of them actually were clients who ended up really being engaged with the show, but needed that push to understand that it had value, it held value for them. What ended up happening is that many of them remained committed to seeing the show most of the time when they could, and or listening to a replay. So it was sort of a nice little teaser for them to get started, and they were supporting me at the same time. So I really encourage you, if you're going to start a podcast or a show or a live stream that you plan on doing consistently, put a launch team together, a team that will go on, watch your first shows, rate them, review them, comment, engage with them, so that you can start that momentum going. It's almost like a catalyst that gets everything started. And that will give you so much confidence to get started and continue on. I know it did for me. The other thing that's really important, and it's really important throughout everything you do in your business, is always staying connected to your why. A lot of us don't even know what our why is. We haven't even explored that. And in my brand styling program, I do a lot of deep conversation about the why. When I'm working with somebody on their brand style and their brand styling, where we start is more about do you know what your why is? And then we don't stop there. We go deeper. What is the why to your why? And we finally dig deeper, even deeper than that, and we get to the soul of the business. What if we get to the why, to the why, to the why? Then what we end up with is why this person's actually doing this. What's the bigger, greater good that they are trying to create? What is the movement that they're trying to create? And when you tap into that why, nothing will ever stop you from being committed to what you're doing. Honestly, that is the one thing that keeps me committed to my movement, to my journey, to the work that I do, because I know I'm not affecting one person. I may just see one person being affected, but I know there is multiple people there being affected, and that impacts not just them, but the people around them. So there is so much value in understanding that and putting your mind around that. And Rick, I would love to hear if you have any input on that. You know, the idea of creating that launch team and this idea of staying connected to your why, the soul of your business.
The launch team is a fundamental, no question about it. That if you've never done this before and you're nervous as heck to do it on your own, then you really do need to have put together a few friendly faces, a friendly audience that can at least get you going, right? And give you some friendly critique on, yeah, I like this part, I didn't quite understand this part, those types of things. And Christine did it right, because when she started, you know, we a lot of this was new to Christine, and she had a great pool of business owners out there that were her potential audience, that could give constructive criticism or really good feedback, or really be a great audience, a trial audience, you know, in the beginning. And a lot of times the fear is you don't have any help, and you don't have that friendly base of fans out there who, boy, that'll give you that confidence. Because a lot of times if you go in this without any friendly faces, you're going to find it even harder and harder and harder to be consistent and go on, you know. So you do need those people. The second question was what? I forgot. Sorry.
So the second question is about the why, really staying connected to that.
Yes, and absolutely. And that goes both ways when you talk about your why. When it's your why for the show that you're doing, yeah, absolutely. If people don't know what your why is, why you're doing it, then you're going to struggle. If they think, they're going to assume that the reason your why, they're going to assume that your why is to sell them more products, right? And that's not it. If that's it, then you're making a big mistake in doing the show in the first place. And so if they know what you're passionate about, if they know why you're doing this, and it's more so because you have this thing inside of you that where you're driven to help other people, other entrepreneurs, other business owners, and you have a special talent or special knowledge that can help them. And if they understand that, then you know what? The sales stuff will come later. That'll come naturally anyway. But in order for them to trust you, they have to know you. And if they know your why early on, then you're going to be much more successful. If you've never heard of, I know we talked about this on the show. There's a guy, actually you'll see him on YouTube a lot, Simon Sinek, who talks about the golden circle. And the golden circle in the middle, if you imagine a bullseye, instead of the why being on the outside, the why is the bullseye. Okay, you have the why as the bullseye, then you grow out from there to the what, and then the how, right? And typically we start the other way. When we sell our product or service, we start from the outside and then work into the inside. But if they haven't bought into you yet, then you know you're not going to be, your message isn't going to be translated very well to the viewer. So always start with your why and work your way out. And if you haven't seen Simon, just Google the Golden Circle, Simon Sinek, and you'll understand what we're talking about here.
Yeah, no, that is really profound. And it's interesting because it surprises me how many people haven't really explored their why in business. And I firmly believe that that's when somebody is at risk of not succeeding in business, when they don't know their why. When you've explored your why and you've explored it deeply in a way that not only it's not just about, I want to make women feel beautiful in their image. It's more about, I want to make sure every woman has at her disposal the resources that make her feel so well taken care of that she is able then to go out and care for all the things that she does. That's a movement. That's more than just, dressing one person or dressing somebody. That is very deep. It's very deep work. It touches the inside. And honestly, because I feel very connected to my deeper why, I don't think about not making my business work ever, because I know the value offers people and the profound depth of what it gives people. It's not about the clothes. It's about what the clothes do. It's the tool, right? It's a tool.
Right.
Clothes are a tool to create that inside passion, that inside confidence that then up levels them in every area of their lives. So it is so important to know that why. And when you know the why, it's not going to matter how many people are listening to you, because you're going to feel like, if I have one person listening to me today, I'm going to touch that person, and that's going to make a difference in their lives. And that is worth it. So staying connected to why is absolutely one of the most important things when you're trying to overcome the uncertainty. Another thing is sometimes focus on who is there, who's watching you. When somebody's on with you, if you have one or two or three people on with you and all you can think about is like, oh my goodness, there's not 50 people there. What an opportunity are you missing? You're missing the opportunity of really focusing on the people that are present with you and helping them so that you can add credibility to what you do and really tap into why you do what you do. So for me, if I have one person watching, I put it in my mind to give them something of value. And it may not be something obvious. It may actually inspire them in a way so different than what my intention is. But the fact that they're with me and I am holding their attention and they are present with me gives me this opportunity to touch their lives. And that's what you have to focus on when you are on creating your own show. And even if you have one person watching, even if you have nobody watching with only the potential of replays later, that is valuable and that is impactful. And, the other thing is, there people don't necessarily have to be live with you on the show to feel like they are, that you're reaching them. There's so many people that listen to this on replay, right, Rick? They listen on replay, or they listen through YouTube or LinkedIn.
Oh, no question about it. So the point I wanted to bring up is that, okay, before all this live stream became in vogue, right?
Yeah.
Before it became really popular, people were already doing this, but the only difference is we were just doing it. We were videotaping it and then playing it, right, on YouTube or on Facebook. The only difference here is that we're just doing it live, and you're seeing some of the mistakes and some of the fun stuff that happens with live TV, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But at the time when we're videotaping it, no one's watching other than the cameraman and you, or if it's you, then it's just you, right? And you have a live camera. You went up and hit record, and you spoke away, and there's your content. And so I remember it was the weirdest thing the first time I ever did that. Right? I was taping I think it was some kind of tutorial course years ago when I was doing that, and I thought, this is really weird because I'm just talking to this lens, right? No one's there's no audience reaction. There's nothing. But as I kind of got into it, I forced myself to think, okay, just imagine that there's 100 people or 1,000 people watching you right now, and you're doing this live, right? And so just let it go. Be reactive, be interactive, be emotive. Do everything as if you had an audience behind the camera, and you'll be fine. Instead of worrying about, gosh, I hope somebody watches this. I hope I get 10 plays out of this. So it really depends. Try and focus on what you hope for, right? What you what you're planning for, in that the masses will watch this. If the content is solid, the content is good, there will be people watching it. Because like Christine said, the majority of the plays that we get on this particular show are on replays, and we can look back at our Facebook analytics and our YouTube analytics and see how many people watch these videos. And there's, 10 times, 20 times more people that watch the replay than are actually here live.
Yeah. That's so true. And, you make a really good point. It is no different than when we used to tape shows, with just the camera crew and an interviewee, and then it got aired later. So it's really no different than that. Mm-hmm. But I think it's the word going live that makes you feel like, oh, I got to have interaction right now. Right. Now we want it now. Well, that's
because people think they use that as a safety net. So, if there is somebody live, now they have somebody to talk to, right? Right.
Yeah, kind of like what I do with you. Like, come on, Rick, talk to me because I don't know what to say.
Exactly, right.
No, you're so insightful, and that's why we do this banter back and forth. I think it's so valuable because you work with so many people in live shows, and you have so much experience with video production and editing that it really is a very interesting and fresh perspective on being on camera. So it's very valuable. The other part is, just on the overcoming of this uncertainty is really staying consistent. So the reason that we always talk about being consistent, showing up at the same time, same place, same day to your audience is that now they start forming this habit. They know that you'll be on. They know that we'll be on at 11:30 on Thursday without fail. So they can count on us. So if they wanted to catch a show, they know when to show up to see us. And PK is commenting on Banter. Yes, that is the best part of this show, PK. I feel like it is the most fun. And it's something that I love to do with the audience as well. It's just, this back and forth. It's a way of masterminding. It's, we're really using the wisdom of the show and the wisdom of the people that are on the show, including the producer, including everybody that shows up on the show, because we all look at things from different perspectives. So we see things differently, and how wonderful that we get to record this for people to give them these different perspectives on different topics. So yes, the banter is essential. I do believe that. So staying consistent with the show is really important. Now, we made a decision early on that I want to go on weekly. I want to be there every week for the audience and give them value. And I wanted that to be sort of a part of my business, a part of what I do for the audience. So some people want to just do it twice a month. So every other week, which is totally fine. But the idea is to stay consistent. And truthfully, I think that you at a minimum have to do it twice a month, because any less than that, then it doesn't feel consistent. Don't you think, Rick?
I was going to add to that, because if you're only doing it once a month, people will see your show and then forget about you, because then there's 29 more, 30 more days in the month, and it's like, oh, I forgot that you did a show a month ago. 2 weeks at a minimum. I would always suggest you do at least once a week until you get into the rhythm, until you get a good read on your audience and the frequency at which they are going to watch your content. I mean, if you have content that only changes once a month, then you probably have enough content stored where you can at least do it twice a month and kind of get into the rhythm. But my suggestion is do it every week for at least 3 to 6 months. Get in that rhythm. Not only does it get you in that rhythm, gets the audience in the rhythm, but think about this, all right? Regardless if it's a half-hour show or an hour show, whatever it is, think about this. This is the time that you invest for marketing to whatever platform that you're pushing out to, whether it's Facebook or to YouTube or to both or Instagram, whatever it is. And if you use this time to market your knowledge, to market your service or your products, in a way that isn't too salesy, right? You're informing the audience rather than selling. Ask yourself, how much time am I actually spending outside of live streaming or video am I spending on marketing? How much money am I spending on marketing? And if you're not doing any of that stuff, then you're really screwed. You're not doing it right. But just ask yourself that, because that time investment that we spend here for 45 minutes to an hour doesn't cost us anything, right? Doesn't cost Christine anything other than her time. And she could spend thousands of dollars marketing Waist Up Wardrobe or Jade for All Seasons in the conventional way and get nothing in return, minimal amount in return. So if you look at it from that perspective, the time investment in doing this once a week should be part of the rhythm in your marketing scheme, and should be integrated in your business plan if it's not already in there.
Absolutely. And I think that is such a great point. It is a marketing piece. So, we spend so much money on marketing in other ways, but to be on the show answering people's questions live, or, providing value of who you are, they're getting to know you, taking the material and repurposing it like we do at the end of the show. We create a Speedy Recap that is a summary of the show to then push out to social media and use as marketing tool. So there's so much, right, that we're building in just an hour show, less than an hour show. And actually, you know what? I look forward to my show. I think it's like one of the most fun things I do. Yes, it requires preparation. Yes, sometimes I feel like I'm pressured to come up with a great topic. But at the end of the day, it gives me this opportunity to talk to my people. And it gives them the opportunity to talk to me without having to track me down on a phone call or an email. So it really is such a great forum for business growth and marketing. And I'm so happy you brought that up. The other thing is that, so many negative thoughts come into our mind, right? It's like, when will my circle of influence grow? When will I realize if this is not working and just stop? What should I do to make it work? Well, all of these things that we're talking about are steps in that direction. And you really have to challenge those negative thoughts, really have to change them into positives. So when you're questioning, when will my circle increase? Just say it is increasing. I just don't necessarily actually concretely see it today, but it is increasing because you are there consistently. Or when do I just stop doing this? I honestly think, again, if you connect yourself to your why would you stop telling people and giving them nuggets and action items that relate to your niche market that then they can go and use to their benefit? Why would you stop that? If the goal is to create a movement around your niche or to really inspire others, there's no reason to stop. So you have to really reverse those negative thoughts and challenge them. And then the other thing is that you have to recognize that it does take time. Okay. So you're not going to just get on unless you're a celebrity, unless you're, a famous celebrity, you're not going to just get on live and then all of a sudden everybody's going to tune in. It takes time. It takes a lot of time. And I always say, my mom, when she first started watching my show, she goes, "Yeah, but Christine, there's not that many people watching." I'm like, "Mom, Rome wasn't built in a day." We're all familiar with that saying, right? Rome wasn't built in a day. And isn't that the truth? And PK is adding, being consistent shows that you are reliable. Oh my gosh. Yes, 100%. That they can count on you. Your audience can count on you to be there. And it does show something about your personality and your characteristic. And what is the superseding, overarching thing that people want from you in order to work with you? Well, they want to trust you, and to know that you're reliable and that you're there for them is such a key ingredient to that. So thank you for bringing that up, PK. It really is about people being able to count on you. So that is such a great point. So it does take time. And just remember, Rome wasn't built in a day. And always rely on the people that really are there to support you, because and fall back on that. So if you're having these moments, these times where you're like, "Oh my God, I can't hang in there anymore. It's not worth my time." Reverse that and start thinking about, I have to hang in there because there are people out there that are listening to me consistently. And a lot of people are coming back on the replays, and a lot of people are looking at other platforms that you maybe don't check in on all the time and listening to your video. You know, it was so interesting. I had somebody come up to me at a conference once, and this was so actually touching. And I got up and I said something. And I actually was talking about my why. And I was talking about how I connected to it. And I was really passionate about that. And during the break, this entrepreneurial woman came up to me and she goes, "I want you to know that I cried when you were talking." I'm like, "Oh my goodness, like, thank you for even mentioning that to me." That is a ripple effect I would have never known about had she not told me. So think about all the times you're on live that you are actually resonating with somebody and you're impacting their life, and you just don't know about it. You have to hang in there for just that, because you are being inspiring and you are helping people. And the other thing I want to just emphasize is I've always looked at the show as, and this is why I really enjoy this show. I've always looked at it as the ant. It's the and to my work. It's not the it thing. It's not the it thing that's going to monetize in a maximum way. It's not going to yield me a sale in every instance. It's not going to give me my ultimate goal. But what it is it's my and. It shows people, like PK mentioned, that I'm reliable, that I'm here for them, that they can trust to find me here every week at the same time, same place, and that I will be there to help them. And it also gives me that exposure because I use all of this video to cut it up and repurpose it and create other marketing tools like Rick brought up. So it's really very valuable in that it is my and, not necessarily my it, not the main thing that helps my business go around, but it's definitely the one that supplements all these little areas. And that's really important. And Rick, I'd love to have you back on here just to comment on that. The idea that, the show isn't really my it, it's my and how much enjoyment that you see me get out of doing this show, even though I was reluctant at the beginning, right?
Oh, well, excuse me. There's two sides to that. Obviously, when you see Christine on the show, she loves it, right? She loves being on the show. She loves having guests on, and it's all great, and it's fun. The other part, but on the other side, on the back side of the camera, and the prep stuff, right? That can be kind of, not as fun. But it leads up to the fun part when you can talk about what whatever subject matter it is. Like you said, the planning can be a little bit overwhelming at first, but once you get in a rhythm, then it's easy peasy and it's easy planning. And I did way more planning in the first, let's say, 3 months with Christine, just because Christine, right, is as a perfectionist, and she wants everything, like every checkbox filled in, and make sure we hit everything, right? And it was great. I mean, it was fine. I went with the flow with that, and I let her on her own kind of, okay, we already know those checkboxes, so I guess we can bundle those together and, put those off to the side. So the checklist got shorter because it was automatic. A lot of the processes now were standard operating things of planning that you do for a show. And so we didn't have to really do so minute planning. Like today, we don't do all those checkboxes nearly as much as we did in the first several months. But as you get more comfortable into the production and you know what you're going to do, you figure out the structure and the flow of the show, then I know for some of you out there that are viewing this can just go live and step up to the mic and start talking, right? I have clients like that who can I give them a topic and it's like, okay, they can talk 20 minutes on that, right? It'll seem like they've been researching this thing for, days or for weeks, but it just comes out the top of their head. And some people are like that. I'm kind of trying to get Christine to do that. In the last couple of months, she's been really good about just being able to step up to the mic and just go with the flow. I know she's not rehearsed as much as she'd like to in the opening, but it's like, you know what? The less you rehearse, the better it's going to sound. And it's worked out great. And I love it because it really makes you much more prepared for anything, because you
Right.
have to shoot from the hip sometimes, right?
Absolutely. And I think it was a learning curve for me because
Hmm.
I'm used to be to take time to prepare, like a lot, like over prepare. And the reality is that over preparing can be just as bad as not preparing at all. Right. So
Yeah.
because you end up getting pretty rigid about what you want to say and how you want to do it, and then you end up really messing up because of it. Like,
Mm.
the outcome isn't as pretty as you expect it because you're so rigid. If one thing is off, then a lot of it falls apart. So I learned that pretty quickly, and I got more comfortable about being on camera. It was definitely a learning curve, and that's another thing I want to emphasize for the audience is if you are starting a new show, I don't care who you are. You could be somebody that is used to being on a stage all day long, but when you get in front of the camera lens, it's totally different, don't you think,
Oh,
Rick?
no doubt about it. It's
Yeah.
like you have to prepare for the unexpected. I mean, the unexpected will happen at any time, in the least opportune moment that you may be broadcasting. I mean, it's happened to us several times. For some reason or another, it could have been a guest internet, it could have been just a connection issue, but I told Christine early on when we first started, it's like these shows will not go perfectly. Expect the unexpected because it's going to happen, right? And so
Yeah.
I mean, aren't you glad that I said that?
Oh, yeah.
Because I can tell you, in the times where it did happen, where we lost connection, when we had a guest, she was prepared. Christine was prepared to take over and talk a little bit on the subject matter while we were waiting for that guest to reconnect, and it went smoothly. It was great.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the worst thing is not preparing for that or not expecting that something can happen, and then you're like you fumble,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or you don't know what to do. You're like, oh my gosh, we start talking about the actual incident instead of just kind of keeping the cadence of the show, right? So
Yeah.
that was actually very valuable. I feel like if that's actually a really good point for people to remember is that you expect the unexpected. Expect to carry the show even if you have a guest. Expect that you should know a little bit about the topic you're interviewing the guest on, even though you're not the expert, but just to know to continue the conversation in an instant like that. And PK is
I was.
agreeing with what
Oh,
we're saying because
yeah.
yeah.
No doubt. I was going to say, I don't think I ever told you this, but it's happened twice. Yeah, in fact, I know I've never told you this. So it's happened twice
Oh,
on the show. As the producer, I'm always in the studio room, right, monitoring the show, bringing up the graphics, getting in the guests on and off. I've had my computer shut down twice during the broadcast, right? But the studio is still open. The stream is going live, so I'd had to restart my computer, come back into the show, and then everything's fine. And Christine didn't know, right? But I'm freaking out because it's like, oh no! I hope she's not asking me to come on air because I'm not there.
oh my goodness. I would totally freak out if I knew because I'd be like, oh my God, technical problems. That's why like you're like my safety net when it comes to technology because it's like I don't want to deal with that at all. But that's the thing, when we're thinking about our audience, we really have to think about how we are acting too, right? Are we engaging them? Are we keeping them engaged? Because that's a factor in
Yeah.
growing your audience. In instances where you can think fast on your feet or have a safety net built in or a plan B, that makes your audience feel like, wow, these people know what they're doing and they're professional. I want to keep coming back to this show. And that's another way to really think about growing your audience. So important. I just want to also, so we've talked about this uncertainty that comes with taking the leap of faith and just trusting that your net is being cast and that people are kind of watching you as you do this, even though, it doesn't look like it sometimes. The other thing I want to talk about is, because this is sort of the flip side of this, is really technical things on how to actually build an audience, how to make assertive moves in building an audience, because it is important, even though it's valuable to have, a few engaged fans, we all want to increase our fan base. We all do. I mean, that's part of this platform and social media and all those things in order to have more people come to to your work, more people to serve, you have to increase that circle of influence. So some things that we do to really promote the show and build that audience, and things that we do consistently. And, I try and add a new layer every once in a while to what I'm doing, because I want to, it's hard to do everything all at the same time. So just think about one thing that you can do to increase your circle of influence, and then do it for consistently for a while, and then add another thing. So for instance, we do pre-promotion of the show, right? We get on, I use my Instagram account to talk about the show, my Facebook to talk about the show. I use my email list to let people know about the show, and some of the groups I'm in, and I'll let them know about the show and that it's airing at a certain time and what the topic is. So that's a really good way to get more eyes on your show, is to let them know that it's happening. People aren't going to come if they don't know about it. So you have to actually do some pre-promotion. And then we do some post-promotion as well, because this show is evergreen and because it lives on the Facebook page at Waist Up Wardrobe. People can come back and listen to a replay. People might say, oh, that episode that they did on lighting, gosh, I want to go back and listen to that. And so they can go back and they can listen to it. They can listen to it on iTunes if they just needed an audio. They can do it. They can listen to it on YouTube or Instagram. So there's so many platforms where they can catch it. And that is in the post promotion. I will do what we now call the Speedy Recap, which is at the end of the show, we go off air and then we record a short synopsis, a short summary of what the show is all about. And then I use that on Instagram and Facebook to tell people, this is what the show is about. This was the main takeaway. Go back and listen to a replay if you want to learn more. So that is a piece of post promotion that you can do too. And that's again where Rick was talking about the marketing, how you can use the recording to become marketing. We take it, we chop it all up, and we repurpose it in different ways. A new layer that I just started adding that some of you may have noticed is I am now going live about an hour before the show, and I'm really creating a teaser video in my personal profile to let people know what we're going to be talking about and to really direct them towards the show. And I'm still really nervous doing that, but I actually am starting to get used to it, and I'm really loving the engagement I get. I get a lot of engagement just from that post itself, and it's just really interesting to connect with my tribe and my community and grow my community in my personal Facebook page. And Rick, I know you have something to say about this.
Not so much something to say, but I'm curious because I love the strategy, and I know you're a coach to do that. But explain maybe to the audience the purpose of doing that.
Yeah. So one of the things that I'm really trying to work on this year is feeding what they call feeding the Facebook algorithm, really trying to give it what it wants so that I can use that to get more eyes on my business and the work that I do. And one of the ways that I've been taught recently to do this, and my big guru, Molly Mahoney, she is like the Facebook queen as far as I'm concerned. I'm really following all her advice. And one of the things I'm doing is really interacting a lot on my personal profile, which people should know. It's very important. Now, I did not know this. I didn't know this. I thought that I was interacting with people on my business page and that was enough. But the reality is you have to interact on your personal profile on Facebook so that people can really know who you are, to get to know and trust you, and then want to work with you. And that's something I was missing. So I'm really trying to work on that. And so now I do this teaser video on my personal profile. It gets people going, oh, she's on in an hour. So it gets people to the Facebook, the Waist Up Wardrobe show. It also gets them to interact with me on my personal profile, which feeds the algorithm, which makes people want to engage with me more, which increases my circle of influence. So there you go. Yeah. Does that answer the question?
It does. And just a point of clarification, that it's actually not a tape delayed video. Christine is doing this live on her profile page. Mm-hmm. And so maybe by the time you see it, it is a video. It's a replay, but she's doing this live, and I love it. You've done this now. I think this is the third episode that you've done this for.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And I was saying, it's like, oh, you have to watch. This is like 11 o'clock while we're doing pre-shows. Like, did you see my preview yet? I go, no, I've been doing stuff. So I watched it, and it was like, oh my gosh, I need to steal that for another article that I'm writing for this other other thing that I'm doing. And he's like, do you mind? It's like, oh yeah, that's great. I mean, your analogy with the bamboo tree is awesome. And I know we have a couple of viewers here who didn't catch the first part of this broadcast. Rewind on the replay and or go to Christine's profile page and listen to the her preview of this episode, because it was great. It's spot on.
It's such a great analogy, and I'm loving that I get to inspire you, Rick, and to inspire you to steal something I put out there. So I appreciate that. And I want people to steal these things and adapt them to their businesses, right? I know PK is the feng shui expert, and I could see her totally using that analogy with her clients and her work. And you adapt it to the work that you do, because it is foundational. The idea of being patient with the process, because nothing good ever happens overnight, right? I mean, look at nature. Things develop in nature over time, and time is such an important factor. So really being patient with the process and being patient with yourself. In addition to other ways to building the audience, think about your blogging too. The blogging directs people to your can direct people to your show. We do the show notes, which, I'm not handling that as well as I'd like to, but I'm giving myself some grace because there's so many pieces I'm trying to implement in the business. But the show notes operating like a blog and then educating people about the show in that way can be a really great tool to get people reading the blog and then going to the show. And finally, one of the tools and things that I use when I'm growing my audience, and this is really key, and you can actually really see considerable growth this way, is working with your power partners. When you're interviewing somebody who's a power partner that's in the same space, has the same target market, and they then pre-promote in their arena, that brings more people and more eyes to your show. So that is such an important tool that a lot of people forget about. And you want to be able to use those. So I want to talk to you more about this one-on-one. Hashtag hang and shine. So hang and shine will get you to get on a call with me, or let's chat about how we can create some pre-promotion or things that can help you really promote your episode and get more eyes on your show. Hang and shine is the hashtag. If you're listening to this on the replay, put the hashtag hang and shine. I will message you. I will connect with you, and we can really talk about this on a personal level. Like, what is really going to work for the show or the work that you're doing? What kind of pre-promotion, and where do you need to really focus to get that bigger audience? So as you know, we always wrap up Waist Up Wardrobe with the Waist Up Wardrobe weekly wrap up. And the main takeaway here is, of course, hang in there. Really don't get discouraged with numbers. People say that all the time, but it's true, because the numbers that you're seeing are not the real numbers. There's so much invisible goodness that's happening behind the scenes that you cannot see. It's like that. The roots are growing deep that then will really reap you the benefits. So hang in there and be patient with the process. Patience with the process is so key. The tips that I'm going to tell you are basically just in order to grow your audience, think about how you would pre-promote, how you'd post-promote some of these ideas that we gave. Think about your power partners and how they can bring more audience and more viewers to you. That's another great way to promote. And finally, action item. If you are currently doing a show and you're struggling with the numbers of viewers, and that is a thing you want to focus on, think about repurposing parts of your show. Creating that speedy recap, which is just a 60-second recap of the show to use as a teaser video on your social media to direct people back to the show. Okay. Or think about what I'm now starting to do, my live teaser on my personal profile, and use that to direct people to your show. So there's so much you can do. So I'm going to say, for an action item, pick one of those things and start doing it and see if it actually moves the needle for you and gets you some traction with getting more eyes on your show. So There you have it. Waist Up Wardrobe weekly wrap up. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you, PK, for being here. And we always love having you. And thank you for being dedicated to watching the show. I really, really appreciate you. And join us next week at 11:30, same time, same day, Thursday at 11:30 Pacific Standard Time every day, every week, where we're going to bring you a new show and a new series potentially. And you know what? Tell a friend to join us too.